Today we're going to talk about one of the most useful elements, the form. It's this one here, and you can press Shift F to select it. A form is a container element, so when you first drop it on a screen, it doesn't look like much, it's just like a rectangle, because you're supposed to place other elements into it to make a form. So a form is used primarily to manipulate data on a database. So the form will be used either to insert records or to alter records. If we look into our databases here, we have this table called contacts with name and email. And we do have some records. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to create a form that allows us to create new records on that table. And I'm doing the minimal version for that. So the table has 2 keys, so we are going to need 2 fields, and we're going to need a button to save it. So we pick a field, just draw it here. Let's call it name. Option click to duplicate. Let's call it email. And a little button to save. So that's like a minimum arrangement here. In a proper app, you're gonna add styles, make sure that you respect your designer's ideas for how the app should look. You're gonna have labels and whatnot, but for understanding how forms work, it's easier if we just have this. So you can see that it's a container. These elements are contained into the form. Here on the browser, you can see that all these elements are inside form. So we select the form. And what we're going to do is that we're going to bind these elements to the keys in the database. So we select the table. And then we're going to add 2 bindings. One for the name, and basically we select a key and an element, and another one for email. And now to save, we can select the Save button, and we're going to add some low code to save the form. So it's a submit form to database. And after submitting the form to database, the form becomes bound to the record it just saved, as in it knows what record it is editing. So after saving, I'm going to reset the form. You know when you have the form and you click save and then it goes blank again? So we're going to do that by issuing a reset form afterwards. So we select form, you're just saving. This output is the record that was just saved. We are just saving it to the temporary variable, and then we reset the form. And let me show it working. Like Jane. And then just save it. You can see it reset. That's like a good visual feedback that something happened. And if we look into the records, we can see the record here. Now, suppose that instead of adding a new record, I want to edit a record. So usually you would have like a list of records or some other workflow in your app that would cause the editing workflow to happen. Right now, I'm just going to create a button and I'm going to hard code it to edit this record we just created. So I'm just copying the record ID. And I'm just going to create like an edit record button. I'm going to edit the low code for that button. And I'm going to use populate form data. Actually, no. Before that, I'm going to set a variable. And I can show you that you don't need to navigate here. You can just like add a blank one and start typing if you know what you're doing. And you remember the actual name, you could just use it like this. So we're gonna set the temp variable to the value that I copied from the database. This is the unique ID for that record. And then we populate the form. This is just to make sure that the temp variable has an actual record ID in it. So if we go into play mode, the form is empty because we did reset it after using. If we click edit record, it loaded this and we can change something, for example, the email. And if we go to look at it, we can see that we did edit that. And now, if we go back here and we type something different, and save, this is gonna be a brand new record. That happened because we are resetting the form, so we are clearing it up. So basically, this is just a quick introduction to forms. You can create a form by adding elements into it. Then, using no code, you bind data to the form, and then you use it as fit for your app. Let me show you another way of working, which is using the form builder. I'm going to create a new screen. And I'm going to pick the form builder. And I'm just going to make your own. Let's call it contact. And we add a name field and an email field. And then we just select the existing table. We can select that. And it already created the correspondences for us, but we could change it here if we needed. And then there's some styling that you can do if you want. And once it's done, it creates a form for you. Notice that it's exactly the same as we did earlier. It created a form, called it contact, and it added elements inside it. The difference is that it added labels and a field instead of just the field, and it grouped each set of label and field. But it's basically the same. If we check the submit button, it's exactly the same as we had, like form contact, reset the form. So basically, it's an automated way to create a form, but you can create by hand, as I just shown. Forms are an awesome container element. They are crucial for data-driven application. And now that you're watching this video, go to the next video, which is about layouts, which is a way to list records, and it's also a container element. With forms and layout, you can create 90% of the apps you need. But all the elements are described on this playlist, so watch them all and reach out in our forums if you need any help at forums.apply.io.